Well, howdy, folks. How y'all is? Now, at the time of this filming, it is New Year's Eve. I don't know when you actually see this video because a lot of times my videos are a week or two out in the rotation. But I was going to make tamales. However, I could not find any corn husk here on the island. So, what we are doing, we are skipping the Mexican tradition of making tamales, and we are going more El Salvadorian and making pupusas. Join me, shall y'all? Now, today. So, pupusas are the national dish of El Salvador, and very similar to the Mexican version, which is called an arepa. But the arepa has the filling of the topping on top of it, and a pupusa has it in the middle of it. So, let me show you what we're getting into. First things first, we're going to need to make a filling, and then we'll get into making the arepa part, the pupusa part, with the cornmeal. However, we're going to do two different varieties here. I'm going to do one with chicken. So I'm going to stew some chicken. I'm going to do one with cheese and roasted chilies. So first things first here, let's get some seasoning off in our water here to stew this chicken. I have a couple here bouillons of the caldo de pollo to start. Next thing in here, I've got some salt, pepper, and garlic, a little bit of oregano in this bottle here. There we go. Next thing we add here is a can of diced tomato. You can use stewed tomato, whatever you like. And the last thing I'm going to use here is some Valentina salsa picante. Give a little heat to the subject. And that's going to be our stewing or our braising liquid here for our chicken. And I got these little chicken breast tenderloins. But it's better if you actually have like a whole chicken, a bone-in chicken or whatever, because it doesn't dry it out so much. But we're going to use this because this is what we got. So, living in these pots and working in kitchens for decades, a lot of the staff comes from Mexico, El Salvador, and Guatemala. That's the main countries your staff comes from in this part of the country we live in here in the South and Texas and places like that. So, in California and anywhere along the border states and all. And you kind of learn their New Year's traditions. So, like in Guatemala, they make the tamales are much bigger than a Mexican style tamale, and they're wrapped in banana leaves. And then, of course, your Mexican style tamales is a New Year's tradition, and then in El Salvador you have the pupusas. So that's why we're kind of doing a little thing here on all the Latin countries around the United States, and kind of what do they do for New Year's. And a lot of this food you'll see, like when you're working around your staff, they'll bring in food from wherever part of the world they're from. So it's very interesting. You get the pupusas, the arepas, the tamales, and then your friends from other parts of the world. When you have people you're working with in crews, you might have people from the Philippines, from Thailand, or whatever. So you get a really large variety of cool stuff to try out and eat when you're working in the restaurant business. That may not even be on any kind of menu you're working on, just stuff people bring in from their homeland. So what we're doing here when we're steaming this, since we're using a chicken breast product instead of whole chicken, it's important you can actually dry out your meat by cooking it too rapidly. So we want our braising liquid here on a medium heat. I'm actually going to turn it down just a hair because I want it to just be a simmer. I want it to kind of slow cook and make it where I can shred this chicken without it being dried out when we're done. So some people think, well, how are you going to dry out something cooking it in liquid? It happens, it dries it out. If you leave it too long in a poaching liquid, too high of a rumble, It'll actually dry out the meat once it cools. True story. All right, there we go. We're gonna go slow and low as it starts to cook. Once I put a fork in there and it can shred, that's when we're done. So as you can see, this is an electric stove, glass top, and I need to char some chilies. So I bring my little burner with me. That's propane, like Jim Leahy, and that way I can char some chilies. So at this point here, our peppers, our chilies here are charred. We need to get them where they can steam a little bit. So we're gonna throw them off in a pot here. With the lid on it, what that does is lets all that steam from the peppers, the chilies there, make that skin sweat and rub right off. All right, that's been going slow and low there, and that's looking perfect. Just ready to shred there and not dry out. So I took a couple forks there and just shredded that up quickly. Now what we're gonna do is turn this on a rapid boil. Our chicken's perfect. Now we're gonna turn this on a rapid boil and reduce this down, concentrate the flavors, and throw the chicken back in there. And now these chilies are good and sweated, and you just take your thumb and rub across there, and the skin, that charred skin, just peels right off. Like so. So we have reduced all that braising liquid down considerably. We're gonna throw the chicken back in there. Remember, this braising liquid is pretty salty because we had 2 bouillons in there. But it's gonna be okay. So we're gonna add some chilies and some cheese to this. So we let this mixture here cool down, and what we do next, straining it off, all the extra juices. We're gonna add our peppers and our cheese. So there we go, we got our chilies put in there. And the reason I drain the extra juice off is you want it to be kind of a little bit dry when you're making the pupusa. And that liquid had a lot of salt in it from the bouillon we put in there. So we put our cheese in there. We're using panela here. The cheese I like to use is Oaxaca, but they didn't have any at the grocery store I went to, so this is what we're using. This is more of a melting cheese than like a queso fresco, so that's the one we got. Let's get us a mix up here. Alrighty, Taddy, we got all our fillings there mixed up. Next thing we're doing here is using this here pond. This is some awesome stuff. It's cornmeal. It's pre-cooked cornmeal. We're just gonna follow directions on the back here. It's 2 cups to 2.5 cups of water and 1 teaspoon of salt. Well, we're letting the junior chefs here take over, and they're doing pretty good. And Mrs. Chef's making some guacamole up over here. Now, one thing that the Pupusa usually has is a cabbage slaw, but we don't have that, so we're gonna make do with what we got. Well, there we go, folks. I want to wish everybody a Happy New Year. I don't know when this will actually be posted. I'm going to try to rush through and go ahead and load this one earlier than I normally would, since New Year's is here. But Happy New Year's, everybody. Hope 2021 is a prosperous year for everyone. Healthy year. And less restrictions. Thanks for joining us. We will see you guys next time.
Doing.